Hello, everyone. I am Aruba Mazhar, Marketing Manager at LantroTech.
And I'm Fatma Haroon, Marketing Executive at LantroTech.
Thank you so much for joining our webinar on Electrical Estimation 101. So talking about electrical estimation, it is one of the most important things when it comes to electrical construction projects. But in Pakistan, there isn't much awareness, even among the professionals, that what estimation is all about and what's involved in electrical estimation. However, at LantroTech, electrical estimation is one of our core services, and we have got some of the most talented people of this field in our team, and these people will walk you through all the ins and outs of electrical estimation in today's webinar. So let's move on to the agenda for today's webinar. So before we dive deep into the concepts of electrical estimation, I'll give you a quick glance of what LantroTech is all about and what services we provide here at LantroTech. After that, our panel speakers will walk you through the fundamentals and benefits of electrical estimation, its process here at LantroTech, and its career opportunities in Pakistan and abroad. Then we'll have a brief Q&A session. Please remember that you will be muted throughout the webinar. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and we'll answer the relevant question at the end of the webinar. Okay, so what is LantroTech? We are basically a technology services company with an international client base. Mostly our clients are based in the USA, and we provide them regularly with marketing and estimation services. On marketing side, we provide them with tailored end-to-end web design and development services. We offer them graphic design and UI UX services, and we provide them with custom marketing solutions. And on estimation sides, our projects are broadly divided into 4 categories, and these include residential, commercial, healthcare, and retail occupancies. So if you want to know more about LantroTech, make sure you follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, as we actively post informative content and we post about our latest job openings there. Okay, so let's move on to the core of today's webinar. Before that, let me introduce you to our panel speakers. We have 3 speakers on board today. We have Awais Amin. He is Senior Electrical Estimator 2. Awais has been with Lantro from the very start, and he is also leading the electrical estimation team. Awais has been involved in over 200 estimation projects, ranging from very small commercial fit-outs to very large high-rise buildings. And then we have Umar Afzal. He is Senior Electrical Estimator 1. Umar is basically a mechatronics engineer with 6 years of experience in MEP field. Much of his professional career revolves around electrical estimation and project management. And then we have Fatma Naveed. She is Electrical Estimator 1. Fatma has been with Lantro from the very start. She is electrical engineer. Fatma, although she is the youngest of the clan, but her exceptional technical knowledge make her stand out among the clients and in our team. Over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Aruba. That was a very kind introduction. Coming back to our audience, I hope you all are as excited for this webinar as we are. And once again, welcome everyone to the webinar. Let's debunk estimation together. And before we go into the details, of course, Awais, can you kindly tell our audience briefly that what electrical estimation is all about?
Sure, Fatma, and thank you, Aruba, and hello, everyone. So before talking about electrical estimation, let's first talk about the term estimation itself. So we all do estimation involuntarily in our lives. For example, when we have to travel to another city, we estimate how much it will cost in terms of fuel, snacks, accommodation, and we estimate how long it will take if we travel through GT road or motorway. Similarly, when someone wants to do an electrical project, like installing a wiring on a building or installing new lights, installing a transformer, they need to know how much it will cost and how long it will take. So electrical estimation is that process of figuring out that cost and time. In the industry, from small electronic chips to big megastructures, electrical estimation is a part of each electrical product and project lifecycle.
Right, Awais, I got your point. But I do have a question in mind that why do we need electrical estimation in the first place?
Yes, sure. So this can be answered from 2 points of view. So one is technical and the other is business. In technical terms, imagine whenever you have gone to a store to buy things for a project or a craft or anything you need to do some task. Maybe you need paper, glue, paint, other materials. You would have researched the prices of those things and then figured out how much it would cost to buy everything you needed. And then that cost will be the cost that you will put in your pocket before going to the store. So electrical estimation is like that, but for people who want to do big electrical projects. So they look at all the things needed to complete the project. like wires, light bulbs, switches, circuit breakers, transformers, and everything, and then figure out how much it will cost to buy and then install everything. So why this is important? Well, just like you need to know how much money you need to spend on your craft project or anything you do in your life, people doing big electrical projects need to know how much money they need to spend on their project. It helps them plan and budget for the project. And finally, in business terms, construction industry runs on bids and tenders, and estimation is the starting point of bidding and tendering. So organizations need estimates of the projects they are going to bid in order to make sound business decisions.
Well, Wes, that makes sense. But what exactly is included in an electrical estimate?
Yes. Omar, from top level or a bird's eye view, there are majorly four things involved in electrical estimates. So these are material costs, labor hours, overhead costs, and contingency cost. First, the material cost. This includes the prices for things like wires, switches, outlets, light fixtures, any material thing that we have to install. As the material cost itself, the name says, it's the cost of the material needed for a project. Then the second thing is labor hours. So we have got the material, we have got the equipment, now we have to install it. So all the time needed to install each and everything to complete a project, that is the labor hours. So in addition to material cost and labor hours, then there are some overhead costs. These are the costs that are associated with the project, like insurances, permits, administrative expenses, like paying a project manager who manages teams on site, catering the safety needs and equipment for the on-site staff, catering the food for even the food for the on-site staff. So that is the overhead cost. And they are very important to an estimate because they can add up and impact the overall cost of the project. And then finally, there is the contingency cost. So that is like a safety net in case there are any unexpected expenses or changes in the project, or is there anything that comes up in the project that was not anticipated before. So for that, there is a contingency cost kept in the estimate. So these are the four things involved in an estimate. And to carry on from that, I would like to ask you, Umar, can you please tell us that what are the requirements to complete an electrical estimate?
Well, Wes, thank you. That's a very good question. So the requirements to prepare an electrical estimate are as follows. First of all, estimators need to have a detailed discussion with the project manager, owner, or client to identify the scope of work, project capital cost, and vendors information. The second step is to gather all the technical documentation like drawings, technical specifications, load calculations, and energy models. After having a detailed discussions with the project manager, owner, and review of drawings, estimators should be capable enough to identify that what stage of estimate is required, either the concept stage estimate or the detail stage. Then we need to set up the tools or softwares like we use counting tools, measurement tools, assembly softwares. Here, the estimator should keep in mind that the cost of the project must remain within the specified limit. Moving on from here, the estimator should carry out a detailed study of the project location to figure out the overheads, profit margins, taxes, tolerances, and vendors/manufacturers availabilities. Lastly, vendors list must be formulated in coordination with the owner or the project manager to check the availability and prices of the electrical items to be installed at the facility. If items are available within the specified time and price range, it's good to go. Otherwise, we need to prepare a new vendor list in coordination with the project manager and stakeholders. So these are the basic requirements before starting an estimate.
Okay, Omar. So you just mentioned a term concept stage here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, sure, Fatma. Concept stage means that it is estimate that totally depends on the thumb rules. Let me explain from an example. Let's say from estimation experience and from past estimation books, I know that residential building electrical systems will cost 100 rupees per square feet. So I just need to multiply the total area of the building with 100. It will give me an overhead cost or total cost of the electrical system being installed at that facility.
Okay, thank you, Umar. I got that.
Okay, Fatma, we also have a question for you. Can you tell us about some of the types of electrical estimates, if there are any?
Sure, Wes. So first of all, yes, like any technical process, there are different types of electrical estimation methods in the market. The basic difference between these methods is in their effectiveness and their efficiency. So I can elaborate the top four methods here. For example, the first method is the order of magnitude estimate. This is one of the most old techniques and honestly not the most accurate one. In this, an estimator basically just makes an educated guess. So that's why it is not only the least time consuming, but also the least accurate one. And since there are no quantitative calculations involved in this kind of estimate, the error margin, or you can say the accuracy for this method is, within the range of 25 to 30%. And moving forward, there is a second estimation technique, which is quite widely used, and this is the square foot estimate method. This method is particularly used when you know the area of the building and you know nothing else. You just know that this is the area of the building, and you just want to give an estimated amount of budget for that. And this method takes around a few hours to complete, and the accuracy for this method is within the range of 20%. And moving forward.
Fatma, sorry to interrupt you. But does it always take few hours to complete that square foot estimate? And like, is it a standard?
Okay, so that's a valid concern, OS. Now you can see the square foot estimate method is not the most effective one. So it doesn't matter if your building is a high-rise building or a small residential unit, it will take around the same time to put a number on that project. However, the accuracy of that number will definitely be affected, by the scope of your work. Let me give you an example. If you ask me, for a budget of an electrical work in a small residential home in a particular society, let's say DH and Bahria, for instance, it is more likely that I will give you an accurate number or close to accurate number. And in comparison, if you ask me, for a budgetary number for a new mall that is going to be constructed, my number will be far from accurate. So, that's why, the square foot estimate method is not considered the most accurate one. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Fatma, thank you.
Okay. So moving forward, the number third, most widely used technique all across the world is the assemblies method. And now, first of all, we need to define obviously what an assembly is. So an assembly in electrical estimation is basically just a group of items that are associated with a particular component that we're estimating. So for example, if I'm preparing an estimate for lighting of any building, any lighting assembly in that building will include everything from the lighting fixture itself, the back box or the mounting box for that fixture, the wire that will go to that fixture, any mounting accessories, and etc. So you can see that this method is a bit extensive one, and obviously since it is extensive, so it takes a day or more to complete, and again depending upon the scope of your project, the accuracy or the tolerance for this method is within the ranges of plus minus 15%. And lastly, we have the most commonly used method, and this is the unit estimate method. In this method, basically, an estimator requires a complete working set drawing set along with the detailed specifications of the project to base his estimate upon. This method is the most time-consuming method, but obviously this is the most accurate method as well, with its tolerance around plus minus 10%. This method is primarily used for the bidding purposes all across the globe. In fact, we're also using this process here at LantroTech as well. So right now we have discussed like 4 techniques that I have just mentioned, and I will go through those again. Number 1 was the order of magnitude estimate. This is an old technique. Number 2 is the square foot estimate. Then number 3, we have assemblies method. And number 4, we have unit estimation method. And you can see the trend from top to bottom. The efficiency of these methods is decreasing, but the accuracy of these methods is increasing. So I can say that in an ideal estimate or in a real world, so your estimate will be a blend of all of these techniques to ensure that your estimate is not only efficient but also accurate. And moreover, also, the choice of which estimate method you want to use will highly depend upon that which stage of project you are in. Like if you're in concept stages, you will definitely use, a order of magnitude estimate or a square foot estimate. And if you're in the later stages of the project, you will prefer a unit estimation method.
Well, Fatma, what do you mean by accuracy here?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question, Umar. So accuracy is basically just the quantitative margin, or you can say any difference from the estimated cost of the project and the capital cost of the project. So if I can say the capital cost of the project was $50,000 and my estimate lies at $55,000, I would say that the accuracy of my project is within plus minus 10%.
Okay, Fatma, I think there is another type called Pakistani method or guesstimating, in which we estimate based on intuition and we just see a structure and we decide it will cost $100,000. And come what may, we take care of all unforeseen things during the execution. So, Fatma, Fatma, can you please elaborate further on some of the technical terms that are involved in the estimation?
Yeah, sure, Avis. And you're absolutely right about that Pakistani method. And maybe that's why most of a project, doesn't come close to, execution because they're not estimated properly. Okay, so moving forward, there are a lot of technical terms that are used in electrical estimation. And I'm sure that your audience might be familiar with a few of those. And even if they're not, you will definitely hear most of them by the end of this webinar. So I'll just list out a few frequently used terms. So number one is SOW, which is also known as scope of work. Scope of work for any project is basically everything from the area of the project to your building occupancy type, specifications for that project to whether it's a new construction or revamping of an existing facility. So scope of work basically includes everything that you need to cover in that project estimate. Number two thing is the RFI. RFI stands for request for information. While skimming through the project, drawing, if an engineer come across any piece of information that he seems is confusing or misleading, and if he feels that any piece of information is missing that might be required in the later stages of the estimate, the engineer then raises an RFI to the GC or the client to request that piece of information. Let's debug this with an example as well. So suppose I'm preparing an estimate for a building and I came across an existing fire alarm system. So I cannot just go ahead and buy fire alarm devices from any new vendor and install that into that existing system. First of all, it is not accurate approach, and even if somehow I manage to do that, it will definitely be pointed out during the commissioning process, and it will be a major setback. So this is the kind of example, and this is the kind of situation where RFIs are important. Right, and then there is this term quantity takeoff, and this you will hear this term every time you will hear the word estimation. So quantity takeoff, you can say that it lies at the core of estimation process. So this is one of the most important process in the estimation technique. This process is basically simply just listing out all the electrical components of your project with their exact quantities that are being used in that project. So if I put it in rather simple terms, I would say that it's like making an ingredient list for your perfect recipe of an estimate. So even if one ingredient is off, your entire recipe will be ruined. So you can imagine that how important is quantity takeoff, right? Okay. And once you have all the quantities for that project, the next step is to filter out that, which ingredients you already have in your warehouse or, in your storage space or whatever that is, and which ingredients, you need to outsource from your external vendors or your local or national vendors. And that process of, requesting pricing from your vendors is known as request for quotations. And that was my next term, that is RFQ, request for quotations. And once you have everything, and once you have everything here, the last step is basically the bid. And bid is just, a formal quotation and a formal pricing that you quote to your client or your general contractor. And so basically the entire purpose of this estimation is to, prepare that one bid that you send out to your, clients.
Okay, Fatma, so you said about the quotation that we take them from vendors. So how are these vendors selected for each project?
Yeah. So yes, Avis, that's an important question for any estimator, that how do you determine that which vendor you want to choose to get pricing from? And the answer is that in the most cases there is a catalog or a list of registered sellers in a particular area, which are referred to as local vendors, and you can get your pricing from there. However, in some cases, if there is a specific vendor that has signed a contract with your client or with your general contractor, you have to get your quotation from those. And in those cases, preferably your GC would have provided you with information of that particular vendor. And this is a prevalent example, in cases of fast food chains that are all across the country. You would see that their architecture is constant throughout. So definitely they will prefer the same vendors over and over again. And these type of vendors, you would usually call them, the national vendors for any particular GC or the client. And so these were the few commonly used terms. And I hope that we're getting somewhere with those. Now, Avis, would you like to walk us through the process of electrical estimation here at LantroTech in particular?
Sure, Fatma. So if we see on the general level, the steps to prepare an electrical estimate include site visit, then skimming of plans, takeoff, cost and labor, and then review and finalization. But to dive deep into that, I would like to ask Umar to tell the details to the audience.
Well, thank you, Abbas. The basic steps to prepare an electrical estimator as follows. Number one is to conduct a site visit. The estimator visits the project sites to gather additional information and assess any potential changes that may impact the cost of the project. From those site visits, the actual site conditions will be clear that either the new electrical systems are to be installed or there are existing electrical systems on the facility. Moving on to review the project plans and specifications. The estimator reviews the project plans and specifications to understand the scope of work and to identify the electrical components required for the project. Number third is to create a list of electrical materials. The estimate creates a list of all the electrical components required for the project, including wires, switches, sockets, lighting fixtures, generators, transformers, earthing systems, lighting protection system, and other electrical equipments. Next is to determine the quantity of materials required. The estimator determines the quantity of each material required for the project based on the project plans and specifications. After this, the estimator researched the material cost. The estimator researched the cost of each material to determine the most competitive and reasonable price. Next step is to estimate the labor cost. The estimator estimates the cost of the labor required to install the electrical components based on the project plans and specifications. Moving on, the estimator should calculate the overhead costs. Overhead costs includes insurances, permits, margins, profits, mobility expenses, administrative expenses. Then to include the contingency fund, the estimator should include this fund in the estimate to account for any unexpected expenses or the changes in the projects. After all these costs, the estimator compiles all the costs together and creates a final estimate for the project. The last step is to estimator submits this estimate to the client, contractor, or project owner for his review and final approval. The specific steps involved in preparing an electrical estimate may vary depending upon the project and the needs of the client, but these are the basic steps which are involved in the process.
Okay, so thank you, Umar. Now you just mentioned the term site visit, and I just want to know that what is the significance of site visit in the estimation process? Like, what if the estimator does not visit the site?
Yep, sure, Fatma. Site visit plays an important role in estimation. Let me explain here with an example that if estimator needs to prepare an electrical estimate of a room with all the electrical items installed in it. Like all the electrical items, I mean to say that there are lightings, switches, sockets, receptacles, and distribution board. If an estimator will just follow the drawings, he might include everything. But if he may visit the site, he came to know that the distribution is existing and he only needs to cater for the circuitry, fixtures, and device installations. So the site visit is equally important in estimation because from site visits, we came to know that what the actual site conditions are, what are the existing facilities, and what are the facilities which are to be installed on the site.
Okay, thank you, Umar.
Okay, Omar. So now with that, we have told that what is the procedure that we follow in LantroTech. So can you tell that what are the factors that we consider while doing the estimates, and what are the factors that affect an electrical estimate?
Sure, Wes. Following are the factors which affects an electrical estimate. The major factors are area or the location of the project, and the second one is occupancy of the project. Let me tell you briefly about these factors. Area of a project is an extremely critical parameter in estimation. All the overhead costs, profits, margins, labor rates, tolerances funds, mobility funds varies with the area. For remote areas, there is a chance of increased labor rates, margins, and taxes. The second factor which affects the estimate is the occupancy of the project. Occupancy means the nature of the project, that either the building is residential, commercial, or the healthcare facility. If the building is the residential, the estimate will be simple as there are no special electrical systems to be installed at the facility. But if the facility is commercial or healthcare, the estimator will be complex because of special systems and requirements. I mean to say that special electrical systems and requirements, like for healthcare facility, use of medical grade appliances, conduits, medical grade cables, and lot much other things like this are recommended by the codes. Healthcare facilities estimates can be complex as compared to simple residential facilities. Besides these two factors of area and occupancy, there are other factors which affect the estimate, like skimming of all the architectural details, elevational details, sections, finishes schedules, mechanical plans, ducting plans, plumbing plans is equally important to prepare an electrical estimate in an accurate way and qualities. Let me explain here with an example that if a technician needs to install a distribution board in a wall, an estimator is unable to calculate the installation cost if he is unaware of the wall architectural sectional details, wall compositions. He is unable to determine the panel mounting assemblies and elevation. So these are the basic factors which affects an estimate. Once the estimator kicks off the estimate, he or she must make sure that they are working on the MEP coordinated plans, as it will surely help him in preparing the quality estimate and to keep the target value within the capital budget specified.
Okay, thank you, Umar. So you have actually elaborated all the factors pretty effectively. Now I just want to know that now we have a complete estimate, right? So what
Yep.
happens after estimate? Like what is the post-estimation process?
Yep, Fatma, thank you. At this stage, the estimate is complete in all respects. But remember, the estimate is complete in terms of only technically. That whatsoever is taken into the estimate, that is only from the drawings. Now, once the estimate is complete technically, it is passed through several review layers to make sure that all the minute details are taken care of. After this, estimator needs to work on overheads, profit margins, labor cost, taxes, insurance, payments, and tolerance funds. After compiling all these costs, the estimate is submitted to the owner or the project manager for his final review and analysis. After submission, estimator carries out meetings or detailed discussions with the project managers, owners to check whether the bid proposal cost lies within the specified budget or not. If the submitted proposal is within the budget, it's good to go. Otherwise, cost optimization or value engineering techniques are adopted to make it within the specified limit.
Omar, you just said cost optimization or value engineering. So can you tell the audience what that exactly is?
Yep, sure. Basically, value engineering is a technique adopted to reduce the cost of the project to make it within the allowable limit. Let me explain with an example over here. Let's say there is a facility or commercial building or a residential building with 1000 kVA electrical load, and the facility is completely backed up by the gensets or generators. While performing this activity, it should be kept in mind. I mean to say that while performing the value engineering or cost optimization activity, it should be kept in mind that all the stakeholders must be on the same page. Okay, let me take back you to the example that there was a facility with 1000 kV electrical load and the complete facility was backed up with the generator. Once all the stakeholders are on the page and with owner's consent and coordination, the designer or engineer is asked to segregate the facility critical and non-critical loads. Let's say we have 700 kVA critical load and 300 kVA non-critical load. So earlier it was backed up by 1000 kVA generator. Now we have to reduce the size of the generator, and generator size will automatically reduce to 700 kVA only for the critical loads. So in this way, the cost will be reduced automatically. Okay. Now, Wes, what do you think we can say that estimation is a part of project management process?
Yeah, so this question goes a long way from the concept of the project till the final commissioning of the project. So I think the connection between estimating and project management is inseparable. I would say that project manager would be out of a job without the estimator. Both a quality estimator and a quality project manager are necessary for the company to complete a project within a budget and within timeline. So during the timeline of a project, estimators and project managers have constant to and fro communication in accolades as well as blame. Let's say if there is a halting project, project manager says because of the estimators and estimators says because of the project managers. But the fact is that the project manager must be given a project to manage that was properly estimated. And project manager must be efficient to execute that estimate. There is a famous methodology known as waterfall methodology that is followed in construction projects, where all these steps are in linear progression, and the next step comes after the completion of the previous step. So that estimate is that waterfall timeline or that story for the project manager that he will tell to the teams on site. So one can say that estimation is the start of project management in a project. And in a nutshell, for any project to succeed or to fail, estimators' accuracy and project managers' efficiency both are at test. So now that we established that project management is a part of the estimation, Fatma, can you elaborate further on what are the skills or background that is required to learn estimation or have a career in estimation?
Yes, sure, Avis. That's actually a really good question for anyone who wants to start a career in estimation and who's looking forward, to opt this career path. But before I list out the skills, there is one thing that I would like, my audience to keep in mind, and it is that estimating is not guesstimating. It is actually a complex technical process. So it is very important to, have the right technical background or the right technical expertise, to start your career in estimation. But of course, with the unconventional digital trends across the globe, I am not saying that you definitely need to be, have an electrical engineer to pursue, your career in estimation. But that would definitely be a plus point. And also, if you, conventionally want to land a job somewhere as an estimator, they would preferably, hire someone with an electrical engineering degree. So in terms of cognitive skills, I feel like attention to detail is one of the most important skill that is required by any estimator. You need to have an eye to pick even the smallest details from the drawings to ensure that your estimate is, the most accurate one. And lastly, I just feel like the estimators, have to work and coordinate with a huge number of people while estimating any project. And they have to, work on multiple softwares at the same time. Some of those softwares are, communication softwares. Some are used for file exchanging purposes. Some are used, for the takeoffs and all the technical procedures. So the list goes on and on. So for an estimator to, have pursue the career and, to proceed in this career, it is very important to have a good IT aptitude. So to conclude, I would say that number one is the right educational background, that is preferably an engineering degree or an associate engineering degree. Number two is attention to detail and the multitasking. And number three is the right IT aptitude for any person to start their career in electrical estimation. And with that being said, let's move forward towards the most anticipating question of this webinar, and that is what is the scope of estimation in Pakistan and abroad? So, Aves, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, sure, Fatma. You rightly said that it is the most anticipated, and it is a touching question as well for me as well. And so in Pakistan, till very recent times, as you were saying, guesstimating used to happen, where the past data or the estimates by intuition used to take place, especially for electrical side of things. It is unfortunate that in our construction industry, electrical construction has always been considered a side work, and no proper codes and safety standards are followed. That's why we see so many electrical faults and accidents in Pakistan. And even if you ask very qualified engineers in Pakistan that what electrical codes and standards are followed in construction industry, they will not be able to answer that. And it's not their fault. It's because there is not a proper code that is followed here. But the good news is that it is changing. People are being educated now about the importance of good electrical installations. Also, due to the current economic crunch, organizations and builders are looking to optimize costs and increase savings. For that, they are hiring experts in all facets of construction, not only electrical, but even mechanical, electrical, plumbing. But as Umar mentioned once in the webinar, that electrical estimator has kind of a challenging job. So because electrical estimator has to involve with coordination with a lot of other stakeholders. So if you go years back, if you heard the term construction, civil engineers would come to your mind. That is true because electrical engineers were not fully involved in the construction process. But now electrical engineers are a big part of the construction industry because every structure runs on electricity and electrical equipment. There is an increasing demand of electrical engineers in Pakistan and electrical estimators in Pakistan. And I am happy to see that LantroTech being the pioneers, there are a number of electrical estimating companies that are being opened in Pakistan. And when I talk about the abroad, there has always been a demand of electrical estimators in construction, especially in USA, Canada, UK, Australia, and Ireland, because mostly in these countries, construction is carried out by third-party contractors. And I would also say that this career is not only for construction. There is an increasing demand of data centers in Pakistan as well as abroad. Every tech giant like Google, Meta, Apple, and Amazon needs ever-increasing data storage and data centers, and electrical infrastructure construction is the backbone of it. Other than that, there is an also, you can say, see the change in the internet architectural, like the coaxial cables and Cat6 cables, they are being converted into fiber cables. There are a number of companies in Pakistan that are working on the fiber cabling. So there lies a good opportunity for carrier for the electrical estimators as well. So finally, I would like to say that electrical estimating in Pakistan is at its budding phase. And I think that phase is the best phase to start a career in any field.
Well, that was very optimistic, Awais. I hope that we're all there to witness the age of estimation in Pakistan in the coming years. And I'm sure it will be able to rectify a lot of development issues for our country, with lingering projects over and over again. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us. We will now answer your questions one by one. So over to you, Aruba and Fatma.
Thank you so much, Fatma, Umar, and Awais. This was really an informative session. Let me just quickly refresh my slide deck as we have sorted out some of the relevant questions here. So the first question is, how can the skills you get from this job help you in your future career, especially in Pakistan?
Okay, so I can take that. So as I just mentioned, so the skills you would learn from the electrical estimation is first and foremost the project management. Being an electrical estimator, you are automatically being turned into a project manager. So that is kind of a soft skill that you will learn. And that is one facet of career you can pursue. Other than that, if you hear nowadays electrical engineering terms, so the buzzwords are embedded engineering, microcontrollers, and all that. But I would say that whatever advancement we achieve in electrical engineering, all of that will be based on one simple formula, that is V is equal to IR. And that one simple formula you will learn in the electrical estimating. So you will learn the electrical power distribution design. And when you learn the electrical power distribution design, you can pursue your career in IT infrastructure, fiber cabling, control systems, and even data centers.
Okay, so the next question is, can we add a rough value of overhead costs to B1 or something else?
Okay, let me take that question. So for overhead costs, we cannot add a rough value. It totally depends on the project locations. The overhead cost, profit margins, taxes, all the overhead cost varies with the areas. Like, let's say, I have given example in a webinar that if we have a remote area, first of all, we have to prepare a technical estimate, and then we have to check the trends at the remote areas for overheads, that what margins are there, what labor costs are there, what taxes are there, and from that information, we will gather all these costs and put them with the technical estimate, and then we will submit that estimate. So adding a rough value to overhead cost might increase it to might increase exponentially from that limit which is already specified for the budget.
Thank you, Umar. So the next question is, what codes do you follow in electrical estimation?
Fatma, can you maybe take over that one?
Yeah, sure, Awais. So basically, which course to follow, it highly depends upon the area in which you're estimating. So if you are, estimating any project for Europe, there will be separate course for that. And if you're estimating any project, in US or in that continent, there will be separate course for that. And there are some internationally acclaimed course. The one that very common, and you might have heard about that, is NEC, which is a National Electric Code, and which is, followed all across United States and, the neighboring countries as well. So for the most part, in our job, we follow that code, and I would recommend that to you for as a starting point to you. You can follow that code.
Thank you, Fatma. Okay, so the next question is, how can you ensure that your electrical estimates are accurate and realistic?
Okay, let me take that question. So to ensure the electrical estimates are accurate and realistic, the two things are very important. First of all, the site visits, and second thing is to review the project specifications and drawings in detail. Like from site visits, it will be very clear that whatsoever is shown in the drawings, either this is existing or the new system are to be installed. And from reviewing the drawings, all the minute and all the little details, if they are catered in detail and all the materials are catered in detail in the estimate, then it's automatically show that the estimates are near to the accurate value, or they are in they are in the allowable tolerance.
Thank you, Umar. Okay, so the last question is, what software do you use and find most useful for estimation?
Okay, I can take that one. So for estimation, there are basically three types of software that we use. So first one is because there are a lot of files, a lot of plans, architectural, mechanical, electrical, telecom, IT. So we have to share files with our colleagues, with our estimators, fellow colleagues, a lot of times, and a lot of files have to be shared. So first is the file sharing software. So the software that we use for that is PlanGrid. That is quite efficient, very easy to use software. The next software that you require in estimating is for the quantity takeoff, for measurement of the quantities. For that, we majorly use the short count and PlanSwift. So PlanSwift is a very famous software used in construction industry. And finally, we require a software that gives meaning to our estimates. That is the pricing or the assembly maker. So that software is the Conest IntelliBit that we are using.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's see if we have any follow-up question. Over to you, Fatma.
Thank you, Ruba. So yes, our audience does have a few more questions, and we can quickly take those as well. So we have one question from Usman. He is asking about the quantity takeoff process for a drawing which is not scaled.
So I can take that question. So, okay, so in situation like these, when your drawing is not scaled, first of all, you will go back to the points that we discussed before. You will raise an RFI. So RFI, you will, ask the GC or the client to provide you with a drawing that is properly scaled. So that is the number one step and approach to deal with this kind of situation. And number two is that you can see that which area you're estimating for, and then there are some architectural standards followed in different area. So, for example, for most of the US buildings, there is this standard that the door, the door size is around 3 feet. So what you can do is that you can calibrate the door size and you can calibrate the entire drawing by taking your door size, and you can measure the wiring according to that. But that is just one approach, and even if you use that approach, you will have to double check that with the client, and you have to particularly mention that in your estimate that you based your estimate using that approach. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Fatma. We have another question from Ali. He's asking what tips and tricks can be used to improve electrical estimation.
Okay, so let me take that one. So you see, tips and tricks, that sounds like a shortcut. So in estimating, you really need attention to detail. There is not really any tip or trick. So I think one thing that I follow is that when you are estimating, consider it that you have to explain this estimate to the person next to you in next 5 minutes, right? And then think in your head, what questions can he ask from you in that drawing? So you have to have a meaning of each and everything that is written on that drawing. Each and every symbol, each and everything, you have to know what that means. What is there in the drawing? So you have to know each and everything on the drawing. So that is one thing I follow. And the other thing I follow is, you can say it's a tip or a trick, is to say you can just estimate a drawing and then use the square feet estimate method and then check out what is your, as Fatma told, there are two methods. So you do the takeoff, quantity takeoff, and then follow it with the square feet method and see how much you are varying. If you are varying more than 30%, it means there is something wrong in your estimate.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Another one of our attendees wants to know that if you've done engineering, is there anything else that you need to study before you can pursue a career in electrical estimation?
Okay, so let me start, and I would ask Fatma and Umar both to add into that. So I think the major thing you can learn estimating from is to study electrical engineering design, electrical power distribution design, I would say, because electrical estimation is the reverse engineering of electrical power distribution design. So first of all, start with that. And Fatma and Umar, what would you like to add to that?
Yep, Wes, you are right. To become a good estimator and to make sure that you produce a quality estimate or an accurate estimate, the electrical design is the basic requirement. Actually, with electrical estimator can estimate the project if he knows the design in detail, if he knows the minor details, the design, the study of the load calculations and all the load flow studies, then he will be able to estimate the design in a proper way.
Yes, I think you both covered everything, but I would just like to add one thing more. If you have an opportunity to, take an elective course on estimation and planning, maybe, so that would be really helpful in, your electrical estimation career. But in terms of pursuing any further degree, that's completely up to you. But as I've just said, design will be the most ideal approach.
Okay, I think we should just take one last question because we're running short on time. The question is from Osman. He wants to know the quantity takeoff process for wiring cables because it's the most difficult part of an estimation project.
Fatma,
Okay.
you can take the.
Yeah, Fatma, you can take that because you do that a lot of times.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. So, okay, so Usman, wiring is actually, I can understand from where you're coming. It is actually a quite extensive part of your estimation process, and it is also very time taking. But as far as I have come, I unfortunately I haven't found any shortcuts, around that. So what I actually do is that I always do estimation for wiring, one wire at a time, looking at panel schedule, and I always measure the distances from my panel to the exact load source where I have to go. But yeah, if you're asking about more details about which wire type to follow and which path to follow, there are a lot of parameters that are involved in that. That would be your construction type. Again, if your construction is is a simple building, then you will follow, you route the cables, and if it's a complex construction, you will use the conduits. So yeah, there are a lot of details that will go into that. But if you're just asking about the takeoff process, so yeah, you have to do it one by one. I'm sorry, there are no shortcuts here.
Okay, thank you, Fatma. So we will not be taking any more questions, but if you guys still have any further queries, you can reach out to us on our social media handles and we will get back to you. Over to you, Aruba.
Thank you so much, Fatma, Umar, and Aves. This was really an informative and amazing session, and I hope everyone who has joined us today feels the same. We would love to have your feedback. So if you have any suggestions, any compliments, or any other feedback, please make sure you fill out the feedback form. We're sharing the link to the form in the chat, and this will help us to improve our content and bring more and more events like this in future.
Thank you, everyone. And I hope this session brought some inspiration in all of our aspiring electrical engineers to follow a career in electrical estimation.